Do you remember your parents asking you how you were doing, asking you if you were okay?
Never. You never. Conversation for him was hard. The only thing you could talk to him about would be boxing or football, sport. You get a good hour's conversation out of him, but you certainly couldn't talk about your feelings, how you was feeling, if he was pissed off or whether he was happy. He just didn't know how to socialise like that. He was happiest sitting at the bar on his own. He was a different person in the pub, completely different. But at home, it was his way or nothing. And he, as I learned, because of his upbringing, because he was known as the bastard in the family. So, if you wanted a punch in the mouth, you'd call him a bastard no matter who you are. You'd be on your arse. And unfortunately, that he brought that with him. The anger was always there. And as a kid, you can't understand why you're getting bashed. So I grew up despising the man. But like I said, when I come out the army, when I moved back to London, I stayed at my parents' house for a period of time. And it was only there because my mum could talk to my mum about anything. And it was she explaining how he was brutalised as a kid by his whole family. So he found it out that he couldn't talk feelings. He didn't know how to compliment. He didn't know how to socialise. Hugging, nah, definitely not.
Okay. So
Definitely.
no affection or no talk of feelings. So how did that shape you? What kind of young man did you find yourself being?
It was that hard exterior. You had to develop that. You couldn't show that the more humane side of things in front of me dad, because he couldn't. Even with family, you give someone a peck on the cheek, like, no, you couldn't do that. Could not do that. And my younger brother, God rest him, he married into a family which three of my cousins all married three sisters, and he married one of the other sisters. There was five of them. And they were very close knit. And they were a bunch of huggers and stuff like that. And when they always used to have a party, we'd always get invited, and we'd go over the river in London, down to South London. But my dad wouldn't go in the house, he'd sit on the doorstep and have cans of beer, because he couldn't handle all the nice to see you stuff. He just could not deal with it. In the end, he stopped going. But again, at the time, because I didn't know about anything about his upbringing.
Do you remember as a kid running around in London? Did you hang out with friends and mates?
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty normal outside the family. It was pretty normal. Other than that, it was just at home that you had to be careful what you said. I mean, I remember I was playing cricket as a kid, and one of the older boys, he got the cricket ball in his gonads, and he just like screamed because it obviously hurt him, and he went, what was it? Oh, me cobblers. Well, I'd never heard the word cobblers before. So as I went home, Dad was talking to the neighbour on the doorstep, like, and I said, "Oh, Davy Stone, he got a cricket ball in the cobblers, Dad." Well, I got booted through the front door. I didn't know it was offensive language, but that was me dad. That was his answer. That was how he dealt with anything like that.
So were you afraid of making a mistake?
Scared shitless of it. Absolutely. I mean, I used to have nightmares of him just screaming, and in my dream would be a little black dot, and it would roll along in my mind, and as it rolled along it got bigger, and as it got bigger my dad's shouting would get louder, where I'd end up being sick in the night. He scared me to death.
That sounds like what they call PTSD.
Now, you could say that. Yeah, but it was never heard of in those days.
No one knew. That neighbour who saw your dad kick you through the door, he didn't think anything of it, or wouldn't have done anything?
No, because that is quite normal to him. He was very odd. It's like when I went to join the army, because I was under 18, I had to have parents' signature to say I could go. And I'd done all the tests and interviews, the medicals and everything without them knowing. I was doing it in my lunch break when I was at work. Well, of course, when it came to the day of signing, I've had to let them know. So I got the recruiter to come round the house one night. Oh dear. Mum got out best china and all that, cups and saucers. I mean, we never drunk out of cups and saucers. It's always mugs. But anyway, that was Mum.
Was your dad angry? Was
he was fuming because he'd done national service, hated it. But I can understand it. Probably 9 out of 10 people who were forced into the military hated it. I could. That's how it was. So he hated it. He spent more time in jail than anything else, fighting.
Because of anger?
Yes, because that's the only way he knew how to deal with conflict, was by punching. And of course, he sat here, the recruiter sat there, and the old man's going, he ain't hard enough, he can't handle someone shouting at him, and he's bringing it up when I was 8, because he used to scare me so much, I used to cry, at that age. So he saw that as a weakness. And of course the recruiter's going, yeah, but Richard, the army's not like national service anymore. It's completely different. Well, cut long story short, the old man, he turned around at me, he says, do you want to do it? And I went, well, I'd like to give it a go, because I didn't know whether I'd like it. And he went, well, fuck off then. So the recruiter give him the papers, and he could barely write his own signature. Right. He made his mark, and 2 weeks later I was in the army, 21st of July 1976.
It was an escape from his anger. It's a way to get away from his abuse. And of course you've got to learn to do things for yourself now. Ironing. You know what I mean? Making your bed, all these soppy things that Mum used to do for you, now you've got to do it yourself. And my training, 18 weeks for the infantry in those days, I wouldn't want to do it again. It was proper mental torture. And, because you've got to get fit. But it's a completely different way of life. So if you can adjust and accept the way the army does things. It's not always the best way, but if you got to accept that's the way that it's done, then you'll have a great time. If you fight it all the time, then you'll have a miserable time. You'll only do your minimum time. But he accompanied me passing out parade in that December, and he clapped as we marched past, and then fast forward on
to later that day where we were home on leave. It was just before Christmas, funny enough. The next morning, the Saturday morning, we were sat in the front room, and he actually said, look, I'm going to say this, and you'll never hear me say it again, but I'm proud of you. I could have cried then.
Yeah.
Because that is the first good thing he'd said about me. I mean, I had junior internationals in judo and stuff. Never once. I've got pictures of me holding 2 trophies. Didn't come once. Didn't come once. Nationals even in the UK didn't watch me once. He couldn't understand it. When I started boxing in the army, that was it. It was a different person, not something he could talk about. You know.
Had he done boxing, or was it just fighting?
Yeah, he boxed. He was an all-round sportsman. Yeah, I mean, my dad, he weren't very tall, only about 5'5", 5'6", 7", something like that. Very muscular though. Good swimmer, brilliant footballer, a very good boxer. But that was him. You know, I think that's probably a way doing all the sport and all the physical activity sort of helped burn off a lot of the anger. Because as you get older, you can't do that sort of thing. The anger's got nowhere else to go but to those around you, you know. But, you know, I forgive him for that. I understand what made him like it now. It weren't because he was an evil man, it was just he didn't know any different. So I was determined never to be like that, you know. It ain't done me no favours in relationships. I've been too laid back to do what you want, access to my bank account, you know.
So you won't confront, or you wouldn't confront people because your dad was so angry and so confrontational that you went the other way and was like, I'm not gonna anything for an easy life. I'm not gonna.
Cost me a fortune. You know, I mean, I was always pretty sensible when it came to money. Always managed to save. I come out of the army with quite a few thousand in the bank, but I had a poor choice in women. I think they see my niceness, my you know, I'd acquiesce. I'll do what you want. You know, if you need money, just for quiet life. You know, I can't deal with the ag. I mean, I can't hit a woman, and with my daughter, because I was married, had 2 sons, but years later I met a woman and we had a daughter together, and she was very aggressive. Or as the relationship went on, she turned into an out nightmare. She put a knife in me twice, smashed my skull right down there with a rolling pin, and I'll still let it go. I'll still let it go. You know.
What did you think, now looking back on it? Did you think that was normal, or did you think that, you know, like, how would you handle that now compared to then?
Well, now I walk away.
Why would you walk away now?
Well,
what's different?
Because I never really started drinking badly. I mean, I used to drink, and you know, when the time was right, I would get hammered. Yeah, no doubt about it. But always had work the next day. You know, I could temper it. My problem started when I come out trying to adjust into civilian life. That's when things started going down. and with me daughter's mother. It, like I said, the first sort of 2 years, it was great. It really was great. It was a good time and everything. But she got pregnant, had a little girl, and then it just went. She went psycho on me. If I took the wrong turn in the car, she just punched me in the face. Anything, if I'd said something that she didn't like, it'd be violence.
So you got away from your dad
And
his violence, and you ended up with a wife who was violent.
Well, you know, if a bloke put his hands on me, there'd be a different story. But because it's a woman, I weren't going to hit her back. I mean, she was 8 stone dripping wet. Nothing of her. But it got to the point where I had to warn her, if you want to act like a man, I'll treat you like a man. Where I had to take control of her to stop her fighting, kicking me, and like I said, she got the knife, still got the knife point got into my hand on 2 different occasions. I've got her on the floor and I'm sitting on top of her, and because I was trying to get out the house. So what I did, I phoned the police. I said, look, can you get round here? She's fucking going nuts. Of course, they've come in, they've kicked the front door in, because they've looked through the window and seen me on top of her. First thing the copper did was kick me in the face. All right, get off her, you bastard. I've still got the phone in my hand, and I've got, it's fucking me that just called you know. And then it was, oh God. Of course, she started going with them then, you know. She ended up in prison, as it turned out. Tried to petrol bomb her friend's car, and oh, Jesus Christ.
So do you have any idea what you learned, or why you wouldn't let someone treat you like that now versus then?
Half the problem was, when I was my first marriage, I had 2 boys in the military who were constantly deployed. I mean, I was stationed in Canterbury for 2 years and only spent 6 weeks in Canterbury because of the deployments, Ireland, Belize, training, God knows what else. So I missed out a lot on my 2 boys growing up, and I was determined not to do that with my daughter. So had she had not been pregnant, I would have walked away a lot earlier. But because I was trying to be there for my daughter, and my mum kept saying to me, just walk away. And I'm going, I can't do it. In the end I had to, because I was getting arrested all the time. I mean, she got me, we had a drink, and when she starts, I had the good sense to leave, and I was going to go and sleep in my car. Well, she didn't like that. And she come at me and started smashing my car with a bit of concrete from the front garden. So I fucking wound my seat back up and I drove off. Well, what I didn't know, that she had phoned the police and told them I was drink driving. Right, and because I was sleeping, that's why she come out with to get me to move. Of course, as I drove off, they were waiting for me round the corner. I drove about 100 yards. That was the final. If she could be that evil, then, you know. And now my daughter's in her late 20s now. She's got 4 kids of her own. Very settled down in Hampshire. And I'm starting to hear things, not from her, but from Dawn, my wife, who she now looks at, she calls her mum now. Her birth mother used to, because she had a fear of ice, which I thought was really a weird phobia, but it turns out
that she used to stick her hands in a bowl of water, then put her hand, push her hand into the freezer and close the door on her hand so it'd burn her hand.
Your wife did this to you, your ex-wife did this to
Yeah,
your daughter?
my daughter's mother, she done it to her. She calls Dawn, my wife now, as mum. And other things have come out. She was fostered without my knowing. She told the social services that I was beating her. Absolute complete lies. Even though I tried keeping in contact with the social services when I found out she'd been fostered, they just told me lies. They just told me lies. And I thinking everything's okay, and it weren't. But my daughter understands that now, because we've had quite a few conversations about it. But she's happy now. She's married, 4 kids, just had one, funny enough, little boy. But she holds no badness, no bad thoughts for me, which I'm pleased about. Because I tried the courts, going for, getting access, one court appearance it cost me £1,000 and I had 15 minutes in court. Got what I wanted, access, and then she just stuck 2 fingers up the court and I never seen my daughter. And she was, I think, 18 months old at that point, 2 years, something like that. I had to wait until she found me when she was 16, which was nice.
Yeah, so you've got a good relationship with her. What was the army like? You said that somebody next to you got blown up with a rocket.
Yeah, that was the first tour of honour, South Omagh, 19th of March 1979.
Is that what gives you nightmares?
Yeah. That was. I've got pictures of the launcher. It was homemade rockets, £100 rockets, 9 of them, welded onto the back of a truck, and they lobbed them over us. And it's funny because me and my mate stood there. I just had a shave, and we were standing there having a chat. 1:30 in the afternoon it was, Monday 19th of March 1979. And we heard the launch and we sort of looked at each other, and then we could see them in the air. You could see like black footballs coming. And of course we screamed the alarm, and they were on delayed fuses. They were oxyacetylene cylinders. And they rolled. And I can remember jumping over one as it went between us. I dived that way, my mate Pete dived that way. He died and I didn't. I've still got scars, physical scars, the mental ones, because like in the army, you can't show weakness, especially in front of the men. So you've got to bottle it all up. I got through the day all right, but when it all stopped, I went into delayed shock. And I didn't realise I'd been hit. I got hit in the shoulder, the knee, the foot. What saved my foot, I actually bought myself a pair of calf-length boots, and they were still toe-capped, and a bit of shrapnel gouged a big chunk of steel out of my toe-cap. That saved my foot. Back of my neck, got there, top of my head, it's all shrapnel wounds. I still scratch at them now. When I start to feel stressed, I'll start picking at them and stuff. Well, I ain't never gone. But yeah, and of course, to hide all that, because you just drank basically to blot it out. you know.
Let me just make sure we're not going to get interrupted. So, did you know this guy very well,
Yeah,
Pete?
yeah, he was another London boy, Canning Town.
Do you ever think, if you'd gone the other way?
Oh
and
yeah,
he'd gone- yeah.
all the time. I got told that I was suffering with survivor guilt. Because he I suppose he took most of the blast when I think about it. But it was really weird. It was at 13:30 hours on the 13th day of our tour, and the building that we were stood outside was numbered 13 as well. So if you tend to believe in 13 as an unlucky number, yeah, I could see that.
Do you see it as lucky or do you see it as unlucky?
Unlucky.
Not too keen to go on the 13th floor on a
But no, I'd still avoid going out on the 13th and things like that. I've done that for years. I mean, you could say it is lucky for me because I survived, you know, but I've had other attempts, you know, particularly in Ireland, where I've got away with it, if you like, you know. It's like when I had like 2 Chinese stick grenades thrown at us. I was sat here. I was in an operations room, and it was only like a port cabin, and they got close and chucked a couple of grenades at us. And I'm sitting in the chair with the ops board in front of us. I was a corporal at the time, patrol commander. Platoon sergeant was there, and we were sort of arguing about who was going to go to lunch, because if you went last, you tended to get what was left, so you got more. Right? And I'm sitting there arguing with him, and in the end he pulled rank. He says, "Corporal Mulcahy, off you go." So as I stood up, the explosion went on the roof of the pulpit cabin, come right through the roof. It went through the chair that I was sat in and through the floor. Had I not stood up at that second, I would have been dead. You know, so, and 13's got nothing to do with that. So it's just your luck. It's not. It's fate. It's just not your time. You know.
Makes sense out of it. So if I was a young soldier, right, and I'd been in a situation where I was standing next to a mate and we were talking, and suddenly a bomb came at us, and he went one way and I went the other way, and he died and I didn't, and I was distraught with guilt, what would you say to me?
That's normal. That is quite normal. Don't see it as a weakness.
I shouldn't be alive. It should have been me. What would you say to me?
It wasn't you. And thank your lucky stars. You know, it weren't your day. It weren't your time to go today. You know.
What about? I don't deserve to be alive. I should be dead. Would you say anything to somebody who says that?
That everyone deserves to live. It just, again, it weren't your time. Accepting that is a different story. Because of the feeling of that I survived was so great, the guilt was great as well. And I couldn't listen to that. No, because in some way I'm thinking, poor old Pete, you know, it's like not sort of acknowledging that he actually existed, that because he died it don't matter. Of course it matters. Of course it matters. He was a good man. He was supposed to get married 4 months after that. We went to his funeral. We had a military funeral for him. But that's life. You can't change what happens. You can't stop it. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and that's how you got to deal with it. That's how I deal with it now.
And what was you doing to deal with it then? What?
Drinking, simple. Block it out, and the false bravado. You know, we laugh about it. Yeah, we, you know, every year we still raise a glass to him. At 1:30 in the afternoon. Non-alcoholic now, but yeah, it's never forgotten. It's just that I've accepted that is how it was meant to be, and that is all you can do. That is all you can do, because otherwise, well, I know if I'd have carried on drinking, I'd be dead now. Absolutely no two ways about that. I would be dead.
What was your health like? What were they saying about your health when you were toward the end of your drinking?
Well,
did you say you went into hospital?
I was sat here in this chair, funny enough, and I was feeling really, really ill, and I'm again, I'm one of them people. If I don't feel right, I'll just get on with it, you know. But I was feeling ill. That ill that I called the ambulance myself. And Dawn weren't here, funny enough. She was out at her mates. And I phoned her and I told her what I'd done. But she'd come back, the ambulance had turned up and took me into King's Lynn Hospital. Done some ultrasound stuff on my stomach and drained 55 litres of poison out of me. That was on a Monday morning. I got up on the ward by about 10:30, 11 o'clock. A consultant come round, looked at me notes, and by this time I've drained another 10 litres of poison out of me. He said to me, he was a little Sri Lankan fellow, I'll never forget him. He went, "John," he said, "you're lucky you come in today." And I was like, "Why is that, Doc?" He said, "Well, you'd have been dead Wednesday." Fuck. Shit, you know, beat about the bush or what, you know. And I was just, fuck, Jesus Christ, man. Well, of course, that's given me a lot to think about now. And then on the following Wednesday, another consultant come round, another little Asian fella, and he was even worse. He was like that. He said, like this, your face like that, you see you have one more drink. He said, you'll be back in that bed and I won't promise you that you'll walk out. Fucking Jesus Christ, that's when the penny dropped. That really, and that's when I realised I was on a ward of alcoholics. And later that afternoon, one of the others was getting released to go home, and I said to him, "I said, what are you going to do?" And he said, "I'm going to walk in my kitchen, put my bag down, pour myself the biggest scotch I can find and drink it." I just looked at it, I went, "You're a cunt, mate." I said, "You're a fucking animal." I said, "You don't deserve it." I said, "A lot of people here try." I went, "Nah." And that is when I swore myself I'd never drink again, because I'd become one of those. I'd become one of those out you see out in the streets begging, living rough. People who I used to look down and despise them. I used to judge them like most people do, because when you judge it's easier than having to think, isn't it? I've become that. I've become everything I despised, and that's when I started really thinking about the last sort of 10 years. and accepting I had a problem. I had to realise then, Jesus Christ, yeah, I'm one of them. And as it turned out, Dawn was on her last uppings with me. I didn't notice at the time, but I would have had to make the choice, either her or the booze. I didn't have to make that choice, but it was, I had to do it for myself.
You said in hospital you were aware of all of the people who looked after you and the cost.
Yeah.
What did you think about that?
Yeah, it's like you're taking up a bed. It's like in the army, it's self-inflicted wounds. Just like sunburn, you get sunburn, you get charged. Lose a day's pay. Same as being a drunk. If you don't turn up parade, or if you're incapable of doing your duty, you lose a day's pay. So it's, I mean, because no one forces it down your neck. You know, I think the problem, again, I can only speak for myself. I always thought I was in control. I always thought I only have a couple.
You didn't think you were on death's door?
No. I thought I knew better, didn't I? You know, to me, a couple in reality isn't just one or two, it's 6 or 7. You know, and 6 or 7 is a skinful, 10 or 12. You know what I mean? So you lie to yourself.
So you realised that if you wanted to live, you're going to have to stop drinking. But you didn't. But drinking was a way of coping with life and emotions. So did you find yourself, when the numbing stopped, did you find yourself feeling all these feelings? Did you find yourself having to figure out what to do with your anger or your sadness?
It was, I mean, when the nightmares, because I come out of the army, something that I was pretty good at, loved it, and I come out into the civilian street and it's different, and the first thing you realise is that no one gives a shit, no one cares about you, absolutely no one.
It's like a family, a camaraderie and support.
There is none, it's gone, it's all gone, you know. People, in my observation, I might be wrong, but it's just that people wanted to do as little as possible for as much money as possible. Never any pride in the job. I know that ain't true for everyone, I know that, but that was just my perception at the time. And because I was struggling with that, because in my day, when you left the army, that was it, you're gone. Now there is a bit more of a network, retraining and things like that.
What did you do? How did you cope with this change?
Drink. That's what I did, because it was stressing me out, and of course when you're feeling like shit, you tend to concentrate on the bad parts of your life, and you start thinking about things that happened, like what we were just talking about. And when the nightmares come, I still get them now, but they're getting few and far between now. I'm going a lot longer between attacks than what I used to. The only way I could get any sleep would be to drink and pass out, which I know isn't real sleep, but I was getting some sleep. And of course, the trouble is, I ended up becoming a functioning alcoholic, where I couldn't leave the bedroom without having a drink first. But now I know that is wrong. See, I'm not completely stupid, I know that was wrong, but it was the only way I talked myself into dealing with my problems. And of course, that just leads down a rabbit hole.
So the alcohol would stop you from thinking clearly.
Yeah,
so you
absolutely.
would just default to drinking. But once you stopped alcohol, you started having thoughts, you started having perspective.
Yeah, you know, I started to...
What was the first thing you did that helped when you stopped drinking?
Accept that I had a problem.
Mm-hmm. And then did you take action? Did you go somewhere?
That's it. You know, because when I realised I really was on the floor now, you know, and I'd become everything I despised. It was literally drink or die, or drink and die, or start to live again. I've been lucky. I've got a very supportive wife. I live in a nice place. It could have been very different. So I understand how hard it is when you're living in rented accommodation, you've only got a room, or you're living rough. I've been homeless myself. I've lived on the streets 3 times. But only I've managed to get out of that because I've always worked. The trouble is I didn't pay my bills because everything come after the booze, you know. I think of the money I've spent. God.
So you were in hospital, and these 2 doctors told it to you straight. So then what did you do when you got out of hospital?
Well, I made a promise to myself and to my wife that I would never ever drink alcohol again. And that promise, I think it was around the 1st of April. 5.5 years ago. Yeah. And see that the fact that I was told that I was going to die give me the motivation. Shit, I don't want to die. Yeah, you know what I mean. But it then, because I got that motivation to live, right, enabled me to grab hold of the discipline again, the personal discipline. And that's what I try and say to the guys on a Tuesday. Because I mean, discipline's quite an hard word to a lot of people because.
Okay, so you were saying about CRS, what you say to people
Cool.
at CRS.
Wow.
About discipline?
Well, the thing is, while I was in hospital, Don found out about the CRS services and stuff. I knew nothing about it, and after a phone call, I got some literature sent to me. Spoke to people over the phone, and I joined a group with Adrian Bell, and there was probably about 10 or 12 of us on this group on a Tuesday morning. Alcoholics like myself, drug users, a whole bunch of us, and it was the first time that I realised that I weren't on my own, you know, because I did start to completely fold into myself and thinking, Jesus shit, I think of all the people that I've known in my life, none of them are alcoholics, you know. Little did I know, yes they were, they were just good at hiding it, you know. But when I started doing a group and started talking and people giving their stories, I was able to give mine. And the group changed over that first sort of 6 to 8 months actually. Whittled right down. It ended up as just ex-military in the end, which made it easier for me because when you talk about some of the stuff that you do and see, I mean, when you see a body that's been ripped apart by an explosion, Jesus Christ, man, you know, before I was 18, I see 3 public executions, 3 hangings. I went to El Salvador for a week on the piss, and they were still cutting. They just put a revolution down. They were cutting them down from the lamppost still. You know, so all these memories tend to sort of clock up, and I've never been able to really talk about that. But Adrian got me talking, and I had a few tearful times on that. But at this point, I didn't care. I didn't care about crying.
Because the military said you got to be hard, you got to be tough. But in this group of other military folks,
well, because we all understood, because most of us had been there, had seen it, I experienced it, because you know, you see films on telly and they're very realistic nowadays, but you can't get away from the noise. It's the noise, and it's fucking frightening. It's frightening. But I was able to relay my true feelings, not the bravado of being a roughy-tufty platoon sergeant. I was able to be human again, and the shame that I felt. I mean, of all the bad things that I've done in my life, the most shameful thing for me was drink driving. I mentioned it earlier about being stitched by my ex, but 2 other times I had drunk and drove, and I just, even now, I feel really bad about it, and I don't feel that keen on talking about it because of the shame, you know. And when I was telling Adrian this, he just said, well, look, did you hurt anyone? I went, oh no, I never had an accident, hit another car or nothing. He went, well, there's the positive. And I was, how can anything be positive about drink driving? But the fact, got me thinking that, I didn't hurt no one. I didn't cause any damage to anyone else's property. I didn't put anyone at risk apart from myself, I suppose. But I didn't. There was nothing bad come of it apart from the shame. And that started making me think very differently. I started looking for positive things in my life now, rather than always pick out all the things that are wrong with me. And of course, the booze alcohol is a weird thing. I mean, I stopped the cocaine and the cannabis and the weed. Boom, stopped it dead. Just like I did alcohol. I went cold turkey in alcohol. That was hard. But the drugs, I was easy to get rid of that for some reason. But the drink driving really did unsettle me.
And Adrian got you this idea that look at the positive.
Yeah.
And you started doing that in other places?
With everything that I did, because like I found, see, alcohol is we drink because we enjoy it and we socialise, we have fun. But the trouble is, it becomes a depressant after a while. So you end up depressed. So when you're depressed, you tend to think about all the shit things in your life. But now, not having that depression that alcohol causes, I'm able to think more clearly. I've got clarity. You know, my head's not where I'm not half drunk or hungover. I can think clearly, and my Tuesdays become so important. My life centred around my Tuesdays. Everything got put on hold until Tuesday was out of the way. And just that 1 hour.
What happens on a Tuesday?
We had a Zoom meeting because it started off during COVID, and it helped, I suppose, because a lot of the others live further away from Wispeach than what I do.
And what would you do in these Tuesday meetings?
And we would just talk. Adrian would give us something to talk about, and we would just talk. Sometimes he would leave us with a thought. Next week we'll talk about this. Have a think on this, and I wrote 2 pages of thoughts, you know, and that started me reflecting on my past life. Because I think it was Dostoevsky, that Russian fella, who said nothing changes a man more than past regrets. Whether that's true or not, I'm not too sure. But I started looking back, and I've learned from that. You know, I mean, one of the best things that he told me was, remember the lesson, not the pain. And I still hold that now. It gave me the motivation, and with that motivation, I was managing to get me discipline, and with that discipline, I got my integrity back, and then I started changing as a person again. I become normal. I weren't a nuisance, a drunk. You know, my kids and my grandkids stopped phoning me because I was always pissed. I've become granddad again. And that's all down to CRS. Not only has it changed my life, it really has saved my life. And I ain't bullshitting you. I ain't blowing smoke up your arse or nothing. Without CRS, I would be dead now.
Because that doctor told you that if you drink again, you're going to be dead.
He told me.
That's official medical advice.
Oh God, yeah, he did tell me. But you could think, yeah, he probably says that to everyone. Because doctors always say to you, you can't drink on them drugs, but you can. All right, you know, so you can take that with a little pinch of salt. But where I was feeling so much shame, I weren't going to argue. And that's when you talk to people in on this group who are out. I mean, one of them was, he was an aircraft technician. He used to fix aircraft. And he would say he was pissed while he was putting the jet fighters back together. Like, you know, oh God. But the fact that he could be that honest without any judgment. See, no one judges you. We've all got different triggers to things, whatever sends us to booze or drugs. All got different triggers. But we all want the same thing. Once we've accepted we've got a problem. And CRS made me realise I had a problem, you know, and that word realise is such a throwaway word you use in a sentence, but it really is the light bulb moment when you realise that you got a problem, and you realise that that's why no one's talking to you, because you're a fucking drunk, you know. But CRS got me dealing with my shame, and dealing with that, I've got through the survivor guilt as well. Like I was saying earlier, I've accepted that it weren't my time. That is life. Yeah, you know, it just weren't my time that day and a few days later in my career. But I can't use it as an excuse to have a drink now. So now I've got to face my shit. Whereas when you do that, or you stick it in your veins or whatever, it's escapism. Because that problem ain't going to go away. If anything, it's manifested. You know, the problem's still there. And yet, I knew all this when I was drinking, but I got to the point where I drank that much where I stopped caring about anything. I certainly didn't care about myself. And when you stop caring about yourself, you stop caring about other people. That's probably why I spent quite a few years on my own, I suppose. Who wants to live with a drunk? you know.
So when did you start helping out other people?
That was about just over a year ago now, because the Tuesdays for me now on the old Zoom meetings with Adrian, I got to a point where I weren't getting nothing out of it anymore. And for me to go into the hall on a Tuesday now with other addicts and alcoholics and stuff, it just felt like a natural progression for me. Actually, sort of being in the same room, sitting next to them, talking, having a cup of tea and what have you. And Bex and Andrea, Emma, they would always be there, and they would just do bacon and sarnies and sausage rolls and stuff. And I thought, well, I could give them a hand, and of course that's what I started doing. I started doing all that. To give, like, because Bex and Andrea and Emma, I mean, they're the experts, they're the trained people. They need to be out. They don't need to be stuck in the kitchen where they can't do their role. They can't help people, be it through the art or be it just through chatting. So I sort of went into the kitchen, volunteered myself to do all the bacon rolls and that. And then after a while, it was I'm actually doing something now. I'm actually feeling, and it wasn't so much about trying to give back. It was a bit more selfish than that. It was good for me. I was feeling good, So it wasn't about giving back to CRS. No, it made me feel good. And of course, the better I felt, the more I wanted to do. And of course, that's when the wife, she said to me, "Why don't you do a stew or something, take them in?" I went, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, I could do that." So that's what I started doing. I just throwing a few things in a pot. She has to supervise because, like, you can tell on her nose, I've got no sense of taste and sense of smell completely gone. So she has to monitor, do the taste testing with the spice, because I always overspice stuff. But I've learned from that, and I'll stick to her recipes, and it's become a good thing. Right, I am now losing a Monday because we shop on the weekend, get what we needed. At the time, I was growing all my own, all the veg weren't costing nothing. The apples were off my trees for the apple crumble. So it was very minimal. I was just buying in the meat because I don't eat my own chickens. And it's just rolled on from there. And it got to the point where I started off feeding, I suppose, about a dozen, with bacon sarnies and that. But when I started bringing in some proper homemade food, the numbers started rising. All of a sudden I'm getting 15, 20, and I'm thinking, bloody hell, I'm running out of food here, so I'm now cooking for 30. Sometimes there'd be enough left for seconds and stuff. At the peak of winter, over this past winter, I was cooking for 40 people. We worked out it was costing about 50p a head, so it was really cheap. I'm able to do a bit of beef and some decent stuff. I mean, I've done a fish pie the other week, and that was salmon and sea bass, but it was coming up to the sell-by date, so it was dirt cheap, so we just cooked it. And anything that don't get eaten, which ain't much, I bring home. I bought myself a vacuum pack, and it sucks all the air out, seals it off, so I can freeze it. So it's in the freezer for another day, and that's what I do a lot with the curries as well. And it's now become a bit of a thing because I let them know what I'm going to be cooking next week, and it's great. I mean, when the chickens are laying, well, I do Scotch eggs. I bring them in. I say I did the vegetarian ones. Dawn took them on because there's a bit more to it. I was doing vegetarian ones. Emma liked them, and Inertia. They like them. But it's great. Again, because it does make me feel good, because it's that next step from, I've made the decision, right, which is the biggest start point. You've made that decision not to drink no more. Made my promise to myself, and now I'm doing it. And now I've done it, you'll have to have a look at my bar in a minute. Still fully stocked with booze. I'm winning that battle. I'm not saying I've won, because I don't know what's going on tomorrow, but tomorrow I'll deal with when it comes. CRS has taught me that. It literally is. Although I don't count my days as sobriety, because when I started doing that at the start, it was like I was always thinking about it. And I was starting to stress over it. And I know when I start getting stressed, that's the first thing I used to go for, because that used to blot it out. Until I got depressed, and then I'd drink more because I'm now starting thinking shit things. But this seeing people get fed is amazing. It's truly amazing. It's something I would never have thought of doing.
So the alcohol would numb your feelings, and now feeding people gives you feelings.
Yeah.
The alcohol would numb bad feelings and good, but feeding people gives you good feelings.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's not with what I found with the booze is that it's craving. That's the worst thing I found about giving up drink, was the craving. But the good thing about it is it happens when we're awake. I never used to wake up in the middle of the night, I've got to have a drink, right? So the old black dog's going, go on, have a drink. But CRS, it taught me to understand what's going on in my head. So now I swear to God, I still talk to myself. No. Adrian taught me that. No's your superpower. And it really is true. It really is true. And that's all you've got to do is say, no, fuck off, I'm not having a drink. So it is as simple as that. At the start, it won't never feel like that, because the craving is there. But because it happens in our conscious mind, you can fight it.
So if you met somebody on the street and they, an old mate or something you bumped into, and they said, I'm thinking I gotta stop this. I'm drinking or I'm using, and I think I need to stop, but I don't know what to do. What would you tell them? What would your advice be?
I'd give them CRS's phone number. I had a very
CGL?
Yeah, CGL. Sorry.
Yeah.
I had a very good. He was best man at our wedding, Keith. No, a London boy. Boozer, like myself. I could see the signs in him. Where I'd been sober now, I could see the signs in him, and I recognised that was me. Right? And I used to phone him all the time. Right? He wouldn't phone me, right? And that's how I knew he was still drinking, because I could tell on the phone, could hear him. So I used to phone him, but I used to have to phone sort of mid-morning before he really got on it. And I tried telling him, I said, Keith, like, he's going, no, I'm only on two. I said, Keith, that's what I used to say. I'm only on 2 bottles. I'm only on. I said, it's bollocks, and you know it is, But he thought he had it under control. In the end, I might as well have talked to the wall. And I could see it was getting worse. And he stopped taking my calls, so I stopped phoning. He died last year through alcohol. The same thing that was killing me. And when I got his daughter phoned me, and the first thing I did was walk into the bar. I was crying my eyes out, sobbing my eye out. And Dawn followed me in. She went, "Go on, that's all right. You can have a drink. You can have a drink." Toasting, you know. And I just turned around and I said to her, I said, "No, I'm not going to have a drink. That is what's killed him. That is what was going to kill me. And I've made my promise to myself that I will never touch alcohol again." And once the tears had gone, I'd sort of straightened myself out, carried on. And it was as brutal as that. Carried on, shed my tears. I still think of him when we have our reunions in September. We always raise a glass for the fallen.
He didn't deserve to die, did he? Just because he couldn't stop drinking, he didn't deserve to die.
He was a normal guy. You know, we used to train in the dojo quite often throughout our lives. He just wouldn't accept we had a problem.
Mm.
That was the issue, and that was my issue. The doctor telling me that, you know, I was 2 days from dying really did make me sit up. But it's when Dawn got me involved with the CGL side of things that I started to think about things. And yeah, there's some pretty fucking dark days in my past, but I got through it. I've got through it. Yeah, the booze did help to a point, but the trouble is, my pleasures become my vices, and my habits turn me into this person that I'm not. You know, criminal behaviour and all sorts. Some really bad criminal behaviour. But CGL has got me off that pile of shit. Got me standing up straight. I can talk to people straight. I am beating the black dog. I am definitely beating it. And if I can help anyone on my way, so be it, you know. And this is what I'm finding with my Tuesdays. I think it was Socrates that said to be able to help someone, even when you're not in their company, is of great benefit. And I think if I can help one person who they can then help someone else or themselves, then it's all worth it. You know, we've all, you know, history just repeats itself. You know, booze is always going to be a problem. Drugs will always be a problem. It's you've got to get into places like CGL where you start to see there is life without booze. And what a fucking life it is. It's brilliant. I've never felt so good. You know, every day positive. You know, the saying that I tend to use a lot is like, forgive yourself for your past. Right? I've struggled with that. I have really struggled for that. Because even when I was doing criminal things, I knew I was doing it, you know, but Adrian's taught me to forgive myself. That's happened, you know. You can't change it. Don't worry about it. I've stripped with myself today, you know, and I will not have a drink. I wake up in the morning, not gonna have one today. Make my bed before I leave the room in the morning, and I walk in the kitchen and have a brew. And tomorrow I'm gonna be flexible. What happens tomorrow, I'll deal with tomorrow. I've got the strength now, not to. The anxiety ain't there no more. I'm not worrying about tomorrow because I know tomorrow will be just more of me today. Yeah, you know.
So you said that you learned to forgive yourself.
Yeah.
So if the you that survived the blast of the rocket was sitting right in front of you, could you say something to that younger you about what you learned about forgiveness when it comes to surviving?
Yeah, again, just simple. It weren't your turn. And it is as simple as that. And that is how you got to think. You got to think simple. Because if you think about things too much, you can overthink. So you never get anywhere. And of course, the more you do that, the less you can think clearly. You know, because the more you drink, the more you get depressed. The more you get depressed, the more the things you don't think positive. Everything's always the whole life, the whole world.
So what about when you were a kid and your dad, you know, threw you through the doorway? What would you say to that kid now?
Don't worry about it. He didn't mean it. It was just his way. You know.
It was okay for you to feel scared, right? It was okay for you to feel angry, right?
Yeah. You know, we're not logical people, are we? Human beings. We're emotional. So it's okay to feel a little bit down. It's okay to feel upset, angry. You know, I mean, with the anger thing, I mean, I was lucky in my drinking days. I was a giggler. I'd have a laugh. You know, I never got violent. A lot of it is because of the training. I've done a lot of martial arts in my time. So when you're drunk, you've got no balance, and balance is key. So I couldn't fight if I wanted to when I was drunk. You know, so that was a saving grace to a lot of my troubles. But the trouble is, booze was all I ever wanted. I finished work. Sometimes I'll be, last job I was working a lot of nights. I finished 3 o'clock in the morning. I'll be in the van drinking on the way home. I put it in a travelling cup so it didn't like I wasn't holding a can. I just couldn't wait for a drink. But again, CGL has now got me thinking, well, this is how to think. The positivity. You can still enjoy life without that bit of booze. Because some people are very shy. So having a couple of drinks before you go out takes away the anxiety. I get that. I've never had that problem. Which it's so now being sober again, the old me's back. You know, whereas like when you become a drunk, you become that miserable git in a corner. No one wants to talk to you because all you do is moan. But CGL now has got me back that positivity. And you know, because anyone who's thinking about taking on the CGL and stuff, you got to give it a go. You know, to be even thinking about it, that's your motivation. You've realised you've got a problem, you know, and it's a big problem. So get in there, and it certainly give me the discipline back.
So before you went to CGL, you thought you were the only one.
Oh God,
right?
yeah.
Did you think that they were going to tell you off? Do you remember? Did you think they were going to look down at you?
I didn't know. I really didn't know what to expect. I just knew that I had to stop drinking. And because I accepted I was an alcoholic, that took me a while to get used to saying. And I couldn't say that for the first year, maybe 2 years. I still weren't an alcoholic. I was a drinker. I was a boozer, pisshead, everything but alcoholic, because of what goes with that term. So it's that shame, again, that shame. But it just made me realise just how widespread, especially drink is. It's legal, isn't it? You're not breaking the law by going and getting drunk. You sit at home, I mean, Christ, I've had weekends where it's Monday. Where'd Saturday and Sunday go? You know, and at the time I can remember thinking, oh, that was bad. But I can't wait for next weekend.
Mm.
You know, by the time the weekend come round, it was, I start again. I won't drink as much.
Mm.
Yeah, right.
Mm. Okay, well, I think we got some good stuff there. Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, I can go on and talk for it, like, you know.